Welcome, Sarah. How are you today?
Pretty good. A little bit in the weeds, to borrow a Brené Brown thing, because we're moving house and it's a bit
It's all happening. Well, I certainly appreciate you taking time out to chat to me when you're in the middle of moving house, as I think both of us have. I think you've got more house moves on your belt than I have. I'm up to 25. How many house moves is this for you?
When I counted it last a few years ago, about 4 or 5 years ago, I'd had one less move than I'd had birthdays. I'm 46.
So there's a lot of moving, and that in itself is what do you learn about yourself in moving? Like, what was that like moving so much as a kid?
I'm pretty resilient. I'm very adaptable. I've always been able to make a home wherever I go. So home for me has always been more a feeling than a place. And I suppose probably knowing that you take the important stuff with you no matter where you go. So yeah, just being able to keep that with me and know how to quickly find things in new places.
Well, there's that. You're coming to us. For those that are on the podcast, Sarah is sporting a fabulous pair of headphones that she has borrowed from her son that I'm pretty sure, are they like gaming Fortnite headphones? Is that what we
They're
should be
gaming headphones. They're not Fortnite ones, but they're
gaming headphones.
Ones.
Yeah.
And that was because we're in that stage of moving where I don't know what's in which house, because we've just been taking things from one to the other. And it's like, but at least I know where his headphones are. So while I can't find the microphone I wanted, because God only knows where it is, at least Harrison said, yep, you can have them.
It's a good workaround. Which is, I mean,
creative.
What we're going to, exactly, a nice creative workaround. What we're going to hear about you, Sarah, is that you're probably the most ungaming person we've met, because you are so gentle and kind, and the kind of nature of your work, I think it's, which is just going to be beautiful. So I'm excited to be able to talk with you about your story. Sarah, do you maybe want to share with us a little bit of what it was like to be you growing up, and some of the challenges that you experienced, not just moving house a million times, but some of your own health challenges that you faced when you were younger?
Yeah, I was diagnosed with chronic fatigue syndrome when I was 17, after having 2 years of, it's another virus, just take her home, put her to bed. If she wants to go to school, let her go to school. If she doesn't, don't. And for someone who was, up until I got sick, I ended up with glandular fever, Barmer forest fever, and CMV all at the same time. And my immune system just kind of packed it in. But up until then, I was a straight A student, competitive runner. I'd sung in choirs my whole life. So it was like, what do you mean? Just, I spent about 6 months where I got out of bed to go to the bathroom, and that was about it. While I wouldn't wish it on anybody, if I could go back and not have that experience, I wouldn't wish for that either. In some ways, it led me into massage.
Yeah. And that is often the way that our mess becomes our message. You know, those things that we experience that at the time are awful, and yet so much comes of them. We get to learn so much through them that it's actually like, yeah, you know, it would have been lovely to not have that. Like, you know, for me with scoliosis, it would have been lovely to not have scoliosis and not have all the back issues and surgery and all that kind of stuff. However, yeah, would I not want it if I had the choice? I don't know. I don't think I would, because it's part of my story and who I am. And I think that's true for many of us when we go through challenges and setbacks. Once you recovered, how did that kind of lead into massage? Did you have another career before massage, or like, how did you kind of transition in?
My original plan was postgraduate medicine. So I have a bachelor's degree in sociology and human bioscience. But then at the time, it's like, do I have another 5 years of hard slog left in me? And I wasn't sure that I did. And then I went to university in Armidale, and the year that I finished university, the local TAFE started the massage course, and massage was one of those things that had helped me get through my illness. And I'd found that combining the best of complementary therapies with allopathic medicine actually works really, really well. And we get a great system of healing and healthcare when we put the best of both together. Okay, maybe medicine's not the the road I'm supposed to go down, but finding a way to integrate the two. So
yeah, nice. And did you get to practice that in anyone specific?
I've pretty much incorporated that into everything I do.
Yeah, yeah,
I've been in the industry now 20 years. Or is it
yeah.
22? Yeah, I graduated in 2000. So
yeah, so 22 years. Yeah, okay.
yeah, 24 if you count my training, because I did a 2-year diploma through North Coast TAFE.
Yeah. Okay. And so so you've had also some illness in family around you as well, is that right?
Yeah. Yeah. I lost my mum, it'll be 9 years ago in June, to ovarian cancer.
Okay.
She was diagnosed October 2009.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time I was living in Brisbane. Jeff and I got married in 2010, and we moved from Brisbane to Grafton in 2011 to look after her, because I'd at one stage had gone from Brisbane to Grafton every 3 weeks to take her for chemo. I'd drive down, stay overnight, take her to chemo, the drive back. And I'd been doing that, but then she'd been okay for a little bit and I hadn't been doing that. And then I went to see her, and it's like, why didn't you tell me that you weren't doing as well as you were saying you were? My sister had moved from Grafton, where mum was. So it's like, hang on, you actually need more help and support here. So we moved. I gave up my job, Jeff gave up his too, and we moved to Grafton to look after her. I was also studying my master's at the time, but I deferred that and I've not gone back to it. And I think if I was to go back now, it'd be a completely different study that I'd look into too. So
yeah. What was it like caring for your mum?
it was one of the hardest things I've ever done. But again, I'd do it again in a heartbeat. But I think what was hardest for me was watching what cancer did to her. My mum had a rule: no one with a birth date after 1940 was allowed to be called old. And she was the least old person I knew until she got sick. Because I lived in the UK for a while and she came to visit me. One day I get home from work, I've got the next 2 days off. My mum ever so calmly announces, I've rented a car, we're going to Cornwall, you need to see the ocean because you've gone stupid. She knew me well. If I don't see the ocean on a regular basis, I get a bit out of whack. And then another time that she'd come over, we went to the Channel Islands. We're walking along the beach in Jersey and she spots a boat in the distance and says, hey, let's go to France for the day. Mum, you don't speak French. No, but you speak enough to get us in or out of trouble. So then
sounds like a lot of fun.
That same woman afraid to go down the street for a cup of coffee or just not being, that's it. So, and my mum was also, she wasn't just my mum, she was my best friend. So I loved traveling with her and all that sort of stuff. And just seeing that she, with her illness, it changed who she was.
Yeah.
But it also, there was some good things that came out of that, in that we had this dinner set that was always the Christmas dinner set, or, the special occasion dinner set. When she got sick, it became the everyday set because she said every day is special. So and I've got all of these beautiful things. They shouldn't just be sitting in the cupboard gathering dust. So we started using them.
That's so special. I got goosebumps. And just thinking about what that would have been like to have such an adventurous spirit, to then have that kind of snuffed out in a way, like just really, or shaken perhaps. Something that I noticed for my own family when my gran had Alzheimer's, who was a very articulate, fun, vibrant woman, was watching all the siblings, including myself at times, even though I'm the grandchild, experience grief at different moments, even though she's still with us. What was that like for you?
Hadn't thought about that in a while. So I'm the youngest of 5, but we also, all 5 of us have very different relationships with both of our parents. They had 4 children in the space of 5 years. 8 years later, along comes me. My mum went back to work when I was 6. My parents separated not long after that, divorced when I was 10. So my mum pretty much raised me almost completely by herself, or at least from when I was 8 years old by herself. Whereas my older sisters had both of them to a certain extent. So they had, and I suppose I got the adventurous, if you want to do something, go do it. Like when I said I wanted to go to England on a working holiday, she helped me fill in the forms. Whereas some of my siblings even did that. Or why are you doing that? Or thought that I must have been following some guy, which I've never done that in my life. Because like, nah, if I wait around for one of them, I'm never going to do it. So we all saw her differently. So, and there was times where, because I was there and with her every day, I saw different things, and I'd spent more of my life just the two of us, or mum and my sister, Michelle. And whereas my older sisters were grown and married, I have nieces and nephews closer in age to me than I am to their mothers. So that was all different. And sometimes they kind of put their head in the sand and didn't see what was going on a day-to-day basis, and were caught up in what they had going on, which is fine too. But
it's so interesting watching family members, just everyone experiences death, grief, illness in such a different way. Again, just drawing on my own experience of my gran, I've got 3. So my mum is the youngest of 3, and then there's my uncle and my auntie. And it is a bit strange, but I do have a very good relationship had a very good relationship with my grandparents. My gran has since passed. And just watching how it affected everybody and affected the dynamics and what came out to play. Sometimes beautiful, wonderful, resourceful things, and sometimes the complete opposite of that as well. And it's the analogy I have is that it's like the tail wagging the dog sometimes. I'm like, I would be calling medical people and they'd be like, who are you? I'm like, oh, I'm her granddaughter. Oh, like it was just this kind of pause, like, huh? Like at least if you've got daughter title, you've got a bit more clout. But granddaughter is like, yeah, I'm part of my grandpa's medical power of attorney, so I do have some clout with him. But it is such a strange conversation, and also to be kind of, when you're an empathetic person, kind of sitting back watching all this stuff going, who is this family and how has this happened? Yeah.
I suppose for me, because I was so much younger, I'm always the baby sister. And it's like, it didn't seem to matter that I was the one who'd traveled. I was the one who lived overseas by myself. I'd done all those things, but then in that circumstance, or straight after Mum died, and I will admit I got a bit all over the place because it felt like the rug had been pulled out from under me, because it's like I gave up everything I knew to do that. Now what? But it was, here's the little baby sister who needs to be told what to do and how to do things. It's like, hang on, when do I get to be the grown-up? Although at the moment, being a grown-up's not that much fun.
No, it's true. It's true when you're moving house. I'd
rather be like my prep kid.
Yeah. Exactly.
More fun playing with Play-Doh.
So I guess for you, when you're in struggle, when you're in chaos and all of that stuff is happening, what are some creative ways or things that you do for you in all of that?
I need to find the center, and let the storm be going around me, and find a way that I can not be buffeted around by that. So sometimes it's finding that quiet space, or having structures and routines that this is what I do, this is how I do it. Like I'm loving at the moment, like in the midst of the crazy move, I'm still working. So I'm coming in, I'm setting up for the day, I'm doing treatments. I know how this space works. I know how to function in that. So having that little bit of time, then when I go back out to the crazy, I can actually just get in, do what needs doing, and get back out.
I think being able to have that centeredness can make such a big difference. It's such a good description of the storm, and to be able to be like, it's okay to get buffeted around, but I prefer to not. So what do I need to do to stay centered? And having that routine is great. I guess, what for you, are there any agreements that you make with yourself when you're in a challenging situation?
To try and keep it to like just dealing with each day as it comes, or one problem at a time, because I can quite easily get distracted and go from one thing to another. It's just, well, like I'll be doing a job and then I move to the next one and then go back. But sometimes it's like, no, I just need to one thing at a time. Or if I catch those thoughts coming in, it's like, no, I can't think about that now. I'll think about it tomorrow. Or what a friend of mine and I christened I'll take the Scarlett O'Hara approach on that one, thanks. So I don't know if you've seen or read Gone with the Wind. There's this one line in it that she says, I won't think about that today. I'll think about it tomorrow. And it's that, yeah, I can't. That's got to go over there, because if I go down that rabbit hole, I'm going to get stuck. So we'll leave that alone.
So being able to, I love that, the Scarlett O'Hara approach to just go, right, it's over there. I will deal with that tomorrow. That's fantastic. Great boundaries. That's awesome.
Always work.
So once your beautiful mama bear had passed, how did you get from Grafton down to Tasmania?
We needed a whole fresh start, because my son Harrison was born in Grafton and then we moved into mum's house. So he'd spent every day seeing her. He, by that stage, knew how to open doors and go upstairs and look for grandma, and like seeing him go in and looking for her and not being able to find her was really hard. Also, my son Lachlan was born 2 weeks after mum passed. And yeah, that whole time, because Jeff also has 3 crushed discs in his neck and a brachial plexus injury, and he was going through all of that testing and diagnosis, and like had just been told, sorry, you're going to spend the rest of your life on a disability pension. We were in all kinds of bad at that stage, and it's we need a new start. We need to do something. And my sister then said, because we wanted to go to Tassie, she said, go to Tassie, sort your shit out and come home. Well, we did 2 of those. Came to Tassie and we sorted everything out. We went from, at that particular stage of not liking each other all that much, to having another child. We came to Tassie with 2 boys. We now have 3. And yeah, we found those things to lean on to help us get through those challenging times as well. And it was a hard move. Like moving states with 2 kids under 2, it's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
But it ended up being the best move we've ever made. Like, did get to, like, when I said that had to move again, it's like, why don't you just move home then? It's like, no, because Tassie is home now. It's the only home my children have ever known, but also from life falling apart in such a big way, we moved, and I've now actually built a life that I'm really, really happy with. It's like, yeah, we've had to go through some ups and downs, but at a place where I'm actually really happy with how our life is.
Yeah. What kind of things did you guys do to grow together?
probably one of the biggest ones. While I grew up Catholic, I have 4 aunts who are nuns. God was a given in my house and in my life from day one. My husband, on the other hand, was an atheist. And my beautiful mother had said at one point, he needs God in his life. And when that happens, everything else will fall into place. And as usual, she was right. And how that came about was kind of funny. We were in Tassie, and there was a church just down the road from where we were living, and I knew that was what was missing, and I desperately wanted that back in my life, and I wanted that for the boys to have that sense of belonging to something bigger than us. And we went to church, and he came along, but we ended up that day having one of the biggest arguments we'd ever had. And it ended with I don't ever want to hear any more of that God rubbish again, although he wasn't quite that polite about it. But then as things happen, a couple of weeks later, our then business coach introduced us to Sharon and Tim, who run the Tailrace Centre here in Tassie, here in Launceston. And they were having a long table family feast. So we got invited to that. At the end of that one, we're talking to Sharon and Tim, who are the senior pastors of Tailrace Community Church. They invited us to check out the church service on Sunday. I'm standing there going, could the ground open up and swallow me now? Because this ain't going to be pretty. I nearly fell off my chair when Jeffrey said, okay, let's do it. Let's check it out. Because I suppose he had gone there looking for community and connection and had found that. And then, so we did go to that church service on the Sunday. I spent the entire day tears streaming down my face because I knew, yeah, I've come home. This is where I'm supposed to be in that respect. Jeff at the end of the service went up to Tim and said, I don't know anything about this Christianity stuff, but I know I want to. Will you help me? That was a September. He was baptized in the November, went on a mission trip to India in the March. We then did an internship together. So I think being able to share that side of myself, being able to share my spirituality with him was a big help, and him finding that groundedness as well. Like, yeah, it doesn't solve all the problems, but it helps. And then us both finding projects that we can do together that utilize both of our strengths. Yeah, when we work together as a team, we actually work quite well when we can get on the same page.
I love that you can smile about that. A lot of couples can't.
Oh, we have our moments.
Of course, as do James and I. I do think that it's so incredibly beautiful and powerful when we have a combined something, when there's something that we both believe in or something we're both working towards, and how powerful that is, especially when it's something bigger than ourselves. It's like it's that third leg on a stool, like it's like when when things get rocky, there's something else to lean on. And I think having that in a relationship, whatever your faith or non-faith looks like, I do think that having that other dimension, which binds you together and connects you so deeply, I think that does really change the dynamic of a relationship and make it so much easier, that even when things are not great, there's less wobbliness, because it's not about just the two of you. It's actually about, how are we doing this with this in mind, with this other thing in mind, this other, mission of contribution or faith or like whatever it is. I think it's so incredibly powerful. And I certainly know that that's the relationship we've had for 24 years now. That's what's really gotten us through those tough times, is just having that something else in our relationship that actually brings us together closer than just him and I in the relationship. So move to Tassie. pretty exciting. And things obviously started to get better.
Yep.
You're putting your life back together. How did you then open up a business? Like what was that transition like for you?
Well, that was interesting. I'd worked for another massage clinic here for a little while, and then I had Jackson, and I had to take a break because I had hyperemesis gravidarum from conception to delivery. With him, I spent the last 6 weeks of my pregnancy in hospital more than I was home. Then he was induced at 35 weeks because he'd stopped moving. So then I took a break from massage for like while I was pregnant, and then for a while after him. The opportunity to head up the CAP debt center here came up. So I did that for 2 years, got that up and running. And then I'd really missed massage. It was my happy place, because that was no matter what else was going on in life, when I was in that treatment room, I know who I am, I know what I'm doing. And and I'd really missed that certainty, because dealing with debt and money, not my strong suit. Used to be really good with numbers till I got sick, and then I went from maths being my best subject to I look at an equation and it may as well be ancient Greek, because that's about as much sense as it makes. So, but I'd figured out how to do it, and I was partly because I handed off the budgeting stuff to the main office, and they take care of all that, and I just got to look after people. But so went back into that treatment space. I was working from home, and Jeff did his marketing whiz bang stuff that he does. Because she said, I'll start 1 day a week, see how I go. And Jeff said, I'll run one campaign, and we'll see how you go. My 1 day a week got booked out 6 weeks in advance within 2 weeks. So, okay, we'll add another day. About 3 weeks later, he said, oops, I did it again. Again, I was booked out 6 weeks in advance for those 2 days. So added another day, and then it's like, okay, what are we doing? What's going on? But I can't stay working from home because we were renting as well. And it's like there's a limit to how much you can do in a rental property. So then looked for somewhere to move to. Just kept adding days. Then we opened in Patterson Street in January 2020, and I had 2 staff to start. 2, or was it 3? 3 staff roundabout then. So.
And then what happened in 2020? Hang on, let me think about that. So you opened
March was a really fun month.
Yeah, I'm sure it was. With everyone else going, it's going to be okay. This will all be over soon. Oops. Tell us a bit about what was that like? What was the COVID journey like to be for you guys?
Well, my kids will tell you, my husband can drop an F-bomb and they don't even blink an eye. When mum comes out with a swear word, it looks like the world is ending. But although I have been known to, if I've been, because it's not that I can't swear, it's that I don't, because my mum was both my parents actually, of the opinion that 9 times out of 10 you can find a better word. But I have been known to, just on an occasion where I was ready to string a whole bunch of expletives all together, and then realized that small child was standing close to me, came out with, and it's now become a funny thing in our house, Flugelhorny fludge buckets. I don't even know what a fludge bucket is, but
hey, look, Flugelhorny, all the same to you.
Pretty much. So there was lots of that kind of, oh, what the hell now because we went into it with 3 staff, and it was that, okay, we're going to shut down for a couple of weeks till we figure out what's going on. A couple of weeks turned into, was it 4 months? Nearly 5. Started, and Jeff had his own business as well, and he had 2 staff. We came out of that season with 1 between the 2 businesses. And then my staff member then left December 2020 as well. So went back to being just me for a little while. And now I have another massage therapist that's working with me, and I have a receptionist who's with us on a traineeship. And through that time, we'd found out that there'd been some bookkeeping mistakes in Jeff's previous business, and that created a whole bunch of other challenges as well. There was quite a few times in that intervening period that it's like, this is all just too damn hard. Can I throw in the towel now and not get back up? But then it's like, no, it doesn't matter how many times life knocks you down, as long as the number that you get back up is 1 more than it.
Yep.
So
yeah,
that's what
I guess. Knowing what you know now, what would you go back and tell yourself in January 2020?
Don't do it.
Run away.
Or hold on to your hat, because this ride is not going to be what you think it is. Because yes, I've been in the industry a long time, and I've worked in a lot of different places. I've worked in 5-star resorts and hotels. I worked in Thermae Bath Spa in the west of England. So it was 3 thermal mineral pools, 20 treatment rooms. I was senior therapist of 30. So I'd been in that middle role, but I knew going into my own business was going to be a whole different kettle of fish. And there's a lot of hats to wear, and a lot of times you've got to watch out for the expectations, because you don't want because sometimes what you think it's going to be and what it ends up being are very different things. I've learnt along the way that I don't have to do everything myself. Sometimes I struggle with delegating, because it's just like, but I want to do it that way. Or finding out those things that while I can do them, they're not my strongest thing, and I'm better off handing them off to somebody who does do those really well, rather than trying to struggle through and do it. Because like bookkeeping's one of those things that while I can do it, something that takes me 2 or 3 hours to do, somebody that's their jam, they look at it and go, 5 minutes and it's done. So I'd rather spend 3 hours doing treatments.
Absolutely.
Doing baby massage courses, doing online stuff.
Yeah. Well, so you also do baby massage. You run baby massage courses. Yeah. What got you into that?
It's one of those things. I always wanted to work with women and children. Always been been a big fan of babies. I seem to understand them. As a mum, much more comfortable with the little ones than like 3-year-olds do my head in. Not sure what teenagers will be like, because I haven't got there yet. But yeah, that's what all my friends say. I see your face.
Waiting for the day that my kids sleep in, because that's meant to be the trade-off. You might get feral behavior and setting the boundaries, all the things, but the trade-off is that they sleep in. I'm yet to experience that. So I've just got the compulsive eating and the obnoxious behavior without the sleep-ins yet. So, it's great. It's great. So honestly, you're going to love it. It's a great journey. Highly recommend. I'm shaking my head for those listening.
Yeah, she's pulling faces and shaking her head at me. I suppose I've been an auntie for a really long time. My oldest nephew is only 5 years younger than me, so, and I'd always liked that. I'd read a couple of books, mainly the one written by Vimala Bakula about infant massage and how that worked. I thought, I really want to give that a go. And then I saw an infant massage course through the International Association of Infant Massage and did that. It's quite a long time ago now, but it's fun working with babies, but it's also fun watching that connection and that bond develop between them. And then also, I told you I have a degree in sociology and bioscience, and a lot of those studies found that families that are closely bonded and like people that have those strong bonds to family are far less likely to suffer from addictions, are less likely to be involved in criminal behavior. And I also think if we can start healthy habits from really young, we might start turning our health status around, because we're seeing lifestyle diseases that we shouldn't be seeing. Teenagers should not be getting type 2 diabetes, but they are. Yeah, the cancer rates that have gone through the roof, heart disease that's up there when it really shouldn't be. But somewhere along the line, we stop listening to our bodies, stop giving it what it needs, and then we end up unhealthy because of that. So,
Yeah.
but if we can start them when they're little.
And it's such a beautiful experience to be able to experience that with your baby, just to be able to see them relaxed and to know what to do. For some people, like probably like yourself, motherhood would have, sounds like it came really naturally. That's easy. For me, that never happened. I'd only ever held two other babies in my life when I had our son, when we had our son.
Yeah.
And I remember literally looking at him going, looks weird. Like, are you allowed to say that about your own kid? I think he just looks a little bit weird. Love him dearly, but what the heck? And then
I thought Harrison looked like ET when I first saw him.
right? I wanted to say alien. I thought, can I say that on a podcast? No, we said that on a podcast. Yep, totally, we can say that. However, I mean, obviously being a massage therapist certainly helped because I had some skills there. And I'm also a Bowen therapist, so I did do Bowen with the children when they were babies.
Yeah.
Really special. And I know that certainly contributed to my ability to connect and bond with them.
Yeah, makes a big difference. And I saw it in my own. My son Jackson was born at 35 weeks, and so was Lachlan. Lachlan, it was more because of everything that was going on at that time, like losing my mum and that sort of thing. And he had some issues when he was little. He had to get tested for pyloric stenosis. Thankfully, he didn't have it. And then Jackson, part of why he was induced when he was he'd stopped moving, but also they saw an abnormality on his heart that they weren't too happy with. So it's let's get him out. But he was tiny. He weighed 2.5 kilos, fitted between my finger and my elbow. So he was about that big. So very small. You would not think that to look at him now. He's 5, he'll be 6 in August. And he comes up to my bottom rib. Well, yeah, just a little bit above that now.
So obviously the massaging helped because he's been able to grow and thrive, even though he started quite little.
Yeah. Well, there was a study done by Tiffany Field in 1983 at the Touch Research Institute that's attached to the Miami Medical School with preemie babies. Massage improves their growth rates by up to 46%.
Wow, that is huge.
That is huge. Yeah. And it, at that time, decreased their average hospitalization stay and saved thousands of dollars per child per day in hospitalization costs. Wow. So,
yeah, if there was any doubt in your mind as to the power of infant massage, that absolutely gets rid of it. That is so incredible. And of course, we know that physical touch is so important. That's why we hold our babies and touch them and snuggle with them and, wrap them up and keep them close to us.
Well, and touch is the first sense we learn to understand. It's how we make sense of our world.
Mm.
What's our instinct when we fall over and hurt ourselves? We rub it. That's just what we do. So
Yeah. Healing
it
hand.
makes sense to take that to a baby.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. So, with all of this that you've experienced, Sarah, what do you think is the greatest impact you've had on the world because of the challenges you've experienced?
I can encourage people who are going through a tough time to not give up, to just say, I've learned that the rainbow always follows the rain, or that, as cliched as it sounds, every cloud does have its silver lining. It's just sometimes you've got to look really hard to find it. Yeah, I think it's the being able to encourage people not to give up, and that, like, sometimes we have to go through a hell of a lot of crap to get to the good stuff, but the good stuff's there.
Yeah. Yeah. Look, I think it's, whenever I've spoken to somebody who's gone through an enormous amount, a big journey, I think to be able to hear that's the mission that you're on, to then be able to help others through that is just, it's so powerful because it's from such a place of conviction and a place of, I know because I've done it, I get it, I've been there, and just to be able to have that empathetic space to walk with people through times of grief and challenge and hardship, and whether that's financial or physical or relational or familiar, like with families, just amazing. So thank you so much for sharing so abundantly with us today your story. Yeah, really, really appreciate your time.
Thank you. It's been fun to be able to talk to you.